back, listeners, to Mindful Living Podcast with your host, Sana. Today, in this episode, we are diving into a fascinating and very powerful topic, the gut brain connection. Also, how emotional healing improves digestion. And we often think of digestion as purely a physical or biological process, listeners. But science and ancient wisdom alike tell us that our emotions and mental state play a massive role in our digestive health. And to help us explore this, we have an amazing guest with us, Michael Hetherington, also known as the Taoist Tapper. Now, Michael is an anxiety release expert with over a decade of experience as an EFT practitioner, puncturist, therapist, author, and teacher. His work helps people release stress, worry, and emotional blockages that keep them stuck in unhealthy patterns. He has spoken at international events, built a thriving YouTube community with over 30,000 subscribers, and guided thousands towards better mental and digestive health. So, Michael, welcome to the show, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Michael, let's start with the basics. Can you explain for us the gut brain connection in simple terms? How do our emotions directly impact digestion?
Hmm. So I'll mainly use the framework of Chinese medicine as the
Okay.
foundation. Yeah. Because that's kind of what I studied first of all, and that's kind of my foundation. And on top of that is yoga. So yoga kind of fits quite nicely into the Chinese medical model as well.
Mm.
The fundamental picture is that the body and the mind and the emotions are all interconnected, right? So you just can't treat the physical body and not influence the mind, and you just can't treat the mind and not influence the body in some
Mm.
way. So when we talk about, the mind and the gut, again, yeah, like what you said, a lot of the approaches are predominantly physically based. So food based or exercise or even pharmacology, they tend to be physical dominant treatments and approaches. But what I've found, and there's a connection here, is that the state of the mind and the state of the one's emotions are also influencing, your metabolism, your digestion. And so you can't treat them in isolation. So that's kind of where I work is what emotions are involved? Is there trauma? Is the psychological aspect influencing and affecting their metabolism and digestion? And if so, then, we can treat it at that level.
Mm. That is fascinating. So, when we experience chronic stress or anxiety, Michael, does that mean our digestive system is constantly in a compromised state?
Yes, the body is very intelligent, very adaptable. So, you get stressed every day is a little bit of stress, and that's normal, right? So your body is very good at calibrating and adjusting. Um, However, it's when we're in the prolonged state of stress, we're talking months, years, even decades, where the body doesn't really have enough time to adapt or some sort of breakdown in the homeostatic sort of rebalancing process is there's something, it's not working quite correctly. And so we might get stuck in a certain state of stress and anxiety constantly. And then, of course, it's going to start breaking down the system, um, physically, mentally, emotionally, all the aspects start breaking down because the body and the whole system is just not able to recalibrate in a healthy way.
It makes sense. And you work with EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques. And of course, as you mentioned, Chinese medicine. How do these modalities help in balancing the gut brain axis?
Yes, I mainly use EFT tapping simply because it's very easy to do. It's very fast. It's very effective. Like I can do it on the internet. Um, it's very easy to teach as well. It's not, a lot of modalities are very kind of complicated and you need all these, chemistry lessons and all this stuff to understand it. But EFT is like, okay, well, let's focus on this emotion, let's say anxiety, and then let's try and tap on it and go through the protocol, the tapping on the face, and then see after a few minutes when you think about that same issue that was causing anxiety, do you feel different about it now? And 9 times out of 10, the person feels different about the original stress, whatever the target was. So why the tapping does it, and so they've done a lot of studies in this, thankfully to a lot of amazing researchers and, psychologists who are more in the research field. They've been studying it quite intensely for about the last 15 years. It's called clinical EFT, which is the more sort of scientific, rigorous uh, protocol of EFT. And, there's a bunch of studies. One study is basically you scan the brain uh,
Mhm.
before the treatment plan, and then you take the people through like 6 weeks of regular EFT tapping, and then you scan the brain at the end of it and see the changes. And there's a massive difference in the stress response, the way the amygdala is activated. Basically, they're finding that the the brain becomes calmer, the amygdala becomes calmer, and all the hormones and everything that you know are in the system are all reduced. All the stress is reduced, and it's quite amazing. And we don't, for some reason, tapping on acupuncture points, or even just tapping on the body in a certain kind of gentle way, creates a relaxation response through the nervous system. And that's really one of the fundamental elements to it. And it's quite amazing that it does that. But that's what it seems to do. And that's what the science shows as well.
Mhm. Mm. Oh, I think many of us we carry stress in our bodies without realizing it. It's more of what we call tension. I I feel that, and sometimes I dread about getting a massage. I really, really feel like, okay, if I could have a good body massage or a spa or something like that, that could really help me release that stress or tension. So, what are some physical signs, according to you, Michael, that emotional stress is disrupting our digestion? Because I think that's the first step, in this process.
Yeah. When you're talking about getting a massage, I've noticed that often a good massage is not very relaxing. I don't know if you've experienced that. It's like, it, it depends on, the treatment and the modality and stuff. But, if you've got lots of tension in your body and someone's getting into it, it's quite, intense. It's an intense experience sometimes. So, yeah, it just made me think of that. What was your question again at the end there? I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, yeah. So, what are some physical signs that emotional stress is disrupting our digestion? Like symptoms.
Mm. Yeah, I think the obvious ones that most people suffer from is like the bloating, the discomfort, even like heartburn symptoms, and like the food just doesn't move. The food just sits there. Constipation, and even, diarrhea on the other end of the spectrum. And it kind of encompasses all those symptoms, which is very, very common. It's basically like Western diagnostic terms, more like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, is very much the same type of symptoms that could be strongly emotionally related. But I often say to people, like, and most of the clients I work with, it's they've usually tried the conventional method, or so they're like diet and those things. They've seen doctors and stuff, and they've kind of gone down that path. And once it's clear that it's not obviously physical, like you're doing all the right things, but you're still getting the symptoms, then that's a clear indicator that there's something more going on, which is more, let's look at the emotions, let's look at the mind. So I think that's a good way of looking at it is do the, do the typical approaches, first of all, to see if that helps. And then, but if you're still getting symptoms even after doing all that, then obviously let's look at the emotions, let's look at the mind.
Mm. Mm. Well, thanks for sharing these, and I think that makes so much sense. Um, and I have heard, I've read uh, on multiple resources and articles about the link between gut bacteria and mental health. You know,
Mm.
how serotonin is largely produced in the gut. So, how does emotional health impact the good bacteria in our gut?
Mm. Yeah, so that's right. They've been discovering amazing things like, yeah, most of the serotonin's made in the gut, not in the brain, right? And that the gut is a separate nervous system. It can function without the brain, um, which is, yeah, mind-blowing stuff, and they just keep discovering more and more. So
Mhm.
so then they're going down the path of bacteria studies and all this sort of stuff, and, um, though in my work generally, because it's more Chinese medicine sort of based, is that we focus more on this, like, we simplify it basically. We call it qi and blood,
Okay.
whereas, like, Western medicine is very sort of chemistry, this thing, that thing, and that's fine. It's just different, you know, different terminologies and different sort of language things. So when if we look at the Chinese med perspective, which is qi and blood, um, it's basically if you can improve qi and blood flow through the organs, through your digestive system, then that's gonna improve all the systems inside inside your guts. So, qi and blood is almost like that takes care of all the bacteria and stuff like that, right? So that's another way of looking at it rather than going too deep into specific bacterias and how it all works on that sort of chemical based. We or Chinese med just simplifies and goes, "Oh, there's a qi and blood issue, there's a circulation issue." And so the focus tends to be let's improve qi and blood flow. And if we can do that,
Mhm.
the system will heal itself.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah.
So, are there any specific foods or herbs that you recommend for people struggling with stress-related digestive issues? Which are equally effective and available, affordable and accessible to the people.
Mm. Yeah, so, it is hard to recommend, because there's so many different variations and different conditions and different types of people and different cycles of life and different there's thousands of variables. But there's a few sort of tried and tested methods or things that you can play with, that I'd suggest. Um, the first one is to, try more soup and stew kind of foods, like well cooked, lots of, water in them, right?
Mhm.
Because, like there's s that metaphor or something like when you get sick, your mom makes you like chicken soup,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Chicken soup for the soul.
Yeah, that's right, chicken soup for the soul, yeah, so, and that's the same kind of idea. So if your digestive system is a bit, not working properly, you're feeling a bit under the weather, is use, soups and stews and, like, make the food really easy for your body to absorb.
Mhm.
And that will take a lot of the pressure off the system, and I think that's a really good place to start, and if you feel better, like your digestion improves when you do soup and stews, then that's a sign just to keep working with that, maybe eat more well-cooked food and stuff like that. Um, uh, there's another, like, tip is, like, don't eat at nighttime before bed because you're just loading up your system, you're loading up your organs with a lot of work, and then you lie down and it just damages all the systems. So I know it, but there's so many cultures in the world where they love eating at like 10 p.m. or stay up late and do all this sort of stuff. Like, I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And some cultures, maybe they're just uh, genetically like strong for that sort of practice. But generally speaking, it's not a good idea. Like I personally, I don't really eat. Try not to eat after 6 p.m.
Wow.
so that my tubes, my stomach is empty when I lie down, and then my body is not taxed. It can just focus all its resources now on repair and regeneration, which is the healing response, right? Um,
Mhm.
so I've noticed that putting food in actually causes stress to the system. It's one way to look at it. And so, I because you're just telling the body, send all the resources, forget everything else, send all resources to the guts to deal with this new thing. And so, if you just don't eat, then all the resources become available for other systems. So eat soup and stews. Try that. Don't eat too late at night, particularly before bed. It's not a good time. Hot drinks and stuff like that, like hot tea and coffee is generally better than cold drinks because I know it's hard, especially if you live in a hot country. Yeah, you just crave like cold drinks. And I think it's okay, just do it sparingly. But if you smash your stomach every day with like really cold, icy drinks, it it damages the stomach because like your body temperature, our body temperature is like around 37 degrees Celsius. So when you put a cold drink in, the first thing the resources have to do is cook it. It has to heat up all the cold drink or whatever it is. It has to raise the temperature to a certain point. Only then can it start digesting it. So you're just using more resources to break up cold food and stuff like that. So there's three little tips to start playing with, and you know, if you want more, of course, I'd say you can speak to Chinese herbalists. They can give you maybe help you with herbs. Chinese medicine doctor or nutritionist might be able to help you as well with more details.
Wow. So you said that your last meal of the day is at 6 p.m. So when do you start your day? Because I think for me, 6 p.m. is like I'll be very honest and frank,
Yeah.
like tea time for me. It's my tea time. So when is your first like meal of the day?
Yeah, so I'm still experimenting, but and I've been starting to wear these health trackers, like these health watches and stuff like that too, which some of them are quite amazing, and they really help me understand better about my nervous system, like what state it's in. And that's why I said, like, oh, eating food actually causes quite a bit of stress to your system. So
Got
with that in mind, I'm a bit more aware of when I eat because I'm like, oh yeah, I can handle. Let's eat. I can handle it. Let's do it. So I try not to eat till about 10, 11 first meal.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I try. Often I only eat 2 meals, so 10, 11 I eat, and then about 4, 5, 6 I eat a another big meal, and then that's it.
Wow. Yeah. That is really, really unique. I think uh, everybody has got a unique, system in them.
Yeah,
It cannot be like one size fits all approach.
that's right.
Sometimes I hear people saying that you should have small meals with a 2 hour gap. Maybe some person's body may not be accustomed to that kind of eating. It may respond in a different way. And some say that, just 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe a lighter dinner, maybe a moderate lunch and heavy breakfast. But I think unique for, each body type. So thanks for sharing that, Michael.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I think you gotta work it out what your, um, some people will have medical conditions and, it's got another layer of complexity on there as well. Um, and whether you live in a hot environment, whether you live in a cold environment, that's gonna be a huge factor.
Yes.
Whether you're a teenager and growing or whether you're, like, over 40, they're very different periods of life, and you need different kinds of energy and different resources, right? So, um, it it is complicated, I think, but I generally feel like overall, particularly in the developed world, is that people eat too much food.
Yeah.
There's too much food. So, you know, just yeah, that's probably something to be aware of, just to back off a little bit. And again, even if it means stop eating after 6 p.m., um, that can make a huge difference to your sleeping and, all those other factors. Yeah.
True. True. That's really, really great advice in your place, Michael. And some people might be skeptical about the idea that emotions play such a big role in physical health. So, what would you say to those who believe digestion is purely biological? I mean, I'm mean to say, have you encountered any skeptics who later changed their perspective after experiencing emotional healing?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's pretty obvious after a while, like if you just reflect on your own life and, when you get headaches or when something big happens in your life, maybe a divorce or you lose your job,
Mm-hmm.
like it affects you physically. Like you feel, like heartbreak. It's literally a condition, I think, heartbreak. Um, so, it's pretty obvious, I'd say, that if you just look at big events in your life and how strongly emotions were and then how that impacted you physically, there's a clear connection there. Um, but of course, like I describe, like I'm not in the convincing business. I don't I don't try to convince people. Yeah, because some people, they're not ready to hear it or they're on a different path, and that's fine with me. Um, but a lot of people are ripe for it, right? A lot of people are interested in it. And so that's kind of where I'd feel like, okay, you're curious. Okay, let's try it out. And that's another thing I encourage as well, is just to try things out. Like I I won't say that EFT will work 100% of the time on 100% of the people, but
Mhm.
it's worth a try. Like there's what have you got to lose? Let's just do 10 minutes and see if it makes you feel a little different, a little better. Um, so I think going into things like with curiosity is a good way to go about it. Particularly with EFT or any new modality, is just to go in a bit curious um, and I found like the it still surprises me how effective EFT is. Like I will go to do a workshop or work with someone different, and I've
Mhm.
never met them before, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen, right? I wonder if this is going to work. This person, maybe they're a bit tight, they're a bit like they're almost
Mhm.
determined to make it not work, right?
Mhm.
And but like 9 times out of 10, even more than that, 9.5 out of 10, it creates a change, a beneficial change, and in such a fast amount of time. And I'm like, wow, this thing it still works. Like it really works. And so I, I'd encourage people just to give it a try, and just experience it for yourself, give it a try. And if you get some benefit from it, then of course you can go into it further if you like.
Of course, of course. And Michael, bit of a, you have had an interesting journey, right? From your, and you were born in Australia and what teens, and then to China, and then you explore a different world out there in the world of healing. Would you like to share a bit about that journey? What got you into this world of uh, healing and digestion, to study Chinese medicine?
Yeah, so I my mother was a nurse, And that really influenced me, right? So when I was growing up, my mum was working in hospitals and but then her health started to deteriorate, and I was about a teenager at this time, and I remember sort of I don't think I was fully conscious of it, but I was thinking inside, well, she's
Mhm.
working at the hospital, she's surrounded by doctors, she's surrounded by nurses, they're the best people in the world to be around, right?
Okay.
And and then over the years, she got surgery and she got treatment, but it never really, uh, it just continued to deteriorate her state of health. And
Mhm.
around, late teenagers, I was like, that's when I really started to think there must be other options out there, like, that obviously wasn't the right treatment or didn't work for my mom, so what else is out there? And that really got me interested in exploring other things, and that's when started reading books more on yoga and, Buddhism and, uh, Chinese philosophy and all this stuff from a very different place, because I was very, like, Western education, Christian Christian Western education, and so I was, like, going off on the fringe and, like, looking at Buddhism and stuff, and then I was like, "Wow, this stuff makes so much sense to me," and I just felt really connected to it, and then that's when I got the chance to go to China and teach English for a year when I was, like, 20 years old, and and it just opened me up, I saw the kung fu, I saw the tai chi, I saw the Buddhism, I saw the acupuncture, I saw all this stuff, and I was like, "These guys have been developing these systems for thousands of years, there's definitely something in it," and, um and that's it really, and then when I came back to Australia, I was like, "Oh, I wanna study Chinese medicine and learn more about it," and I studied yoga as well as a yoga instructor, um, and I just continued practicing that, and then when I eventually became an acupuncturist and qualified and got all the certificates and stuff, is I was just treating anyone that would come because, you just say, "Oh, I'm an acupuncturist and I'll treat anything," because they kinda train you to treat anything. Uh,
Mhm.
and I was getting, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, IBS, um, Parkinson's disease, dementia, like just all these random cases, uh, heroin addiction, like intense stuff. Uh, but over time, I started to see what what I could treat well or what my tools could work well with, and what sort of things I probably wasn't well equipped with. Like, um, and they needed a different avenue or a different course of treatment, or at least someone else who was more specialized than me to work on that space. Um, and then EFT came into my life a bit more. I I had first discovered it in acupuncture school, but I'd put it on the sideline because I was like, "Oh, no, I'm doing acupuncture. It's more intensive, I'm s basically, it's a full-time study load and all this sort of stuff." So I didn't take EFT too seriously, but in clinic, when I started getting all these, random cases, some of them were obviously emotionally, more psychological and emotional, and I was like, "Oh, let's see if I can experiment with EFT alongside acupuncture," and that's when I really started to see the changes, like, people would change in 10 minutes, 15 minutes of tapping, um, and it was to me, it was producing a faster result than just acupuncture alone. And so that's when I was like, "Oh, wow, this is very interesting. This is fast. It works. It's faster than acupuncture in my experience." So then I just continued down that path, and then EFT became my full-time focus, and the main areas that I found that I worked really well with, and that was kind of missing in in healthcare, I suppose, because digestive problems are on a huge increase. They're really, it's almost like an epidemic
Wow.
of
Wow.
digestive problems.
What a journey, Michael. What a journey.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this. And of course, if someone wants to dive deeper into your work, you are providing I think courses on Udemy, and then you have such a huge community. Where can they find you and learn more?
Yeah, so just my name, michaelhetherington.com is my website, and I'm mainly active on YouTube. So if you just search my name on YouTube, you'll find me.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm in other places, but that's the main two areas I am.
great, great. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes. And Michael, thank you so much for this enlightening and insightful conversation and teaching us, the way our emotions influence digestion. I think it's something we don't talk about enough. So I love how you have shared both science-backed and ancient healing perspectives on this. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you to all of our listeners as well for tuning into this episode of The Mindful Living. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. And also, don't forget to connect with Michael. Refer to the show notes, and your gut and your mind will definitely thank you. Until next time, stay mindful and be well.